Today we are going to be looking at the closing costs on a $57,000 home that a viewer of mine purchased earlier this year in 2020. They sent me all of their paperwork and a little bit of information about their situation and the grants they used in their state as a first-time home buyer so that they could get into a home without having a ton of money saved. We are going to go over their paperwork and look at the exact numbers of what they put out of pocket, what they got in grant money, and what the actual closing costs were on a house at this price point. I know a lot of you probably are thinking, you can't buy a house for $57,000, but you're actually not correct. I know personally people that have houses at this price point in Tennessee, and this family is actually in Illinois, so it's not impossible in the middle of the country in certain cities and areas to get homes at this level. If you live in a huge city or the coast, sure, it might be impossible, but this is a reality for a lot of people in the USA. So that's why I'm excited to show this on the channel today. If you're new here, my name is Mary and this is Pennies Not Perfection, and we talk about personal finance. I share a lot of my own personal story here on the channel about paying off debt and trying to increase our wealth and buy a home and all of that. I also like to do real estate videos and share things like closing documents and real life numbers on people's houses and loans because I feel like I was very underprepared for the actual numbers when I bought our home. I had ideas in my head, but seeing the actual closing paperwork and going through the process really taught me a lot of lessons. So with all of that said, let's look at the paperwork of a home purchase for $57,000.
Okay, let's look at the closing disclosure for the $57,000 house purchase. This is a viewer's information, so of course it's all blocked out so that you can't really see anything other than some basic information. This is an FHA loan, and the purchase price of the home was $57,000. The actual loan amount, the mortgage amount that they're taking out, was $53,418. Their interest rate at the time was 3%. You can now get lower rates than this, but this was earlier in the year in 2020. It was in June 2020 when this home was purchased. To service that loan amount of $53,418, the monthly principal and interest payment is $225.21. There's no balloon payment and there's no pre-penalty payment either. If you want to pay down your mortgage faster, you'll want to make sure that the loan does not have those features. In the projected payments, their total payment is going to be $551.89. So that $551 includes the principal and interest payment, but it also includes estimated taxes, insurance, and assessments, which for this area is $202.01. This includes property taxes and homeowners insurance, and it's something that can change over time as if the escrow needs to be adjusted. So it's important to know that your payment can change over time. Just keep that in mind. But for this loan, it is a $551 payment each month. Next, let's look at the closing costs on this loan, which were $9,126.81. That includes the loan costs and other costs, which we'll look at on the next page. And then cash to close, they got back $690. Looking at the next page, we see the closing cost details and how everything breaks down. To create this loan basically was $1,861. The administration fee from the company that created the loan was $1,315. The lock extension fee, $133.55, the lender fee, $150, and then origination fee, $262.50. This is very dependent on where you get your mortgage, so you can always shop around for your mortgage to find a lender that will do a cheaper origination fee and stuff like that. The next section shows services to create the loan that you did not shop for. So basically the mortgage company provided them and you just pay them, and those in this case were not too bad. They were $2,003. And then the appraisal fee on this one, which was paid before closing, was $495. And then there are some regular things like getting a credit report check and all of that. Then the mortgage insurance premium, this person did have to prepay mortgage insurance premium, which is a requirement on FHA loans for the life of the loan, and often you prepay an amount. We did that on our loan as well. The next section is services the borrower did not shop for, and the total here ends up being $2,823. This is something that can change depending on who you use to set up your escrow and get all of that ready. A lot of people just use whoever the mortgage company suggests. So you can see there's a lot of different fees in this section. There's a wire transfer fee, settlement fee, document fee, courier fee. There's all sorts of fees to get stuff set up, and a lot of this really, really adds up. I'm not going to go line by line on this one because there are a lot in this section, but in your loan closing documents in the details, make sure you just go through everything and make sure you understand what everything is. Some of these things are things that you can't skip, and some of them are things that you could maybe reduce. So just make sure you go through and look at each one individually. So the total loan costs on this are $6,687.55. The $6,192.55 was at closing, and then they did pay for the appraisal $495 beforehand. So all of the section above, make sure you have your loan created and everything is legal and taken care of. And then down here is the other costs. So there are other things like taxes and government fees, and then prepaids as well, which is just taking care of the things that you owe until the mortgage payments kick in. So that is stuff like your home insurance premium and your prepaid interest and possibly property taxes. So in this case, they did not have to pay them themselves, because in this purchase it is in the seller paid column. So they did have some things, including some of the things in the previous section with fees, that the seller paid for closing costs. And that is always something you can ask your realtor to negotiate for you so you have less to pay at closing. The next section is the initial escrow payment at closing, and that is $292.01, which is basically what they pay every month to fund their escrow account, and that's just to make sure that you're going to have enough money for the mortgage company to pay the insurance and taxes and all of that. Then they have an attorney fee down here and a home inspection fee for $450. Those are things after you've agreed to buy the house that you're gonna want to make sure are paid. And then the seller in this case paid the owner's title insurance, which is optional, but title insurance is a good thing. So they did have that paid by the seller for the closing costs. This section in total is $2,439.79. And for the total loan closing costs, for all the closing costs in general, you add up both of those, and that is $9,126.81. And then that is broken down as to when you pay it. At closing, there was $8,632. They paid the $495 before, and then the seller is paying $3,561 in closing costs on this loan. So the next page, sorry about it being crooked, by the way. I didn't realize that I had shifted it when I was filming, but this just gives you an idea of how they calculate the cash to close. So they give you the estimate and then the final numbers. So when you first are getting ready for your loan, you'll have an estimate, but that is not always the case of what it is finally. As you can see, it's several $1,000s less with the final number versus what they estimated to begin with. Also, in the beginning, they estimated the cash to close to be $3,465, and it ended up being only $690 coming back to the borrower. So because of the down payment and the adjustments and all of that, it all ended up being very different than what was originally calculated. So that is something important to keep in mind. Things do change from when you first get your loan estimate to the final numbers. And then the next section gives even more summaries and kind of an explanation of everything, including the sale price of the property, which was $57,000, and then the closing cost total, $8,631.81 for the total due from the borrower. In this case, there were some interesting points. Specifically in this case, for instance, they got a grant that helped them get into this home without having to put down their own money. So as you can see, it's that there's a loan for $53,000, and then there's some credits and such, but they had a $6,000 credit from a program that helps first-time home buyers. And I will go over the different programs that they specifically use. They used two that were very helpful for them, and they let me know via email what those were. If you are a first-time home buyer, there are a lot of options to get grant money that is later forgiven, and you don't have to end up paying anything for that money. Many of these programs are local or state specific, and this was in Illinois, so that is what they used. So you can see down here the calculation, all of the numbers. They ended up having $690 go back to the borrower, so they basically bought a home without having to bring any cash to closing, which is kind of exciting when you're buying your first home and you don't have to bring a ton of money. So let's look at the next page, which is some additional information about the loan. These last pages can feel kind of boring, but they are very interesting. So I would read through this and look at all the loan disclosures and make sure that there's not something that you don't want included, such as you can't make partial payments or you have a negative amortization feature or something like that. Just read through them all and make sure you are looking at this because it does explain it all very clearly. And then here it explains your escrow account, which a lot of new home buyers don't understand escrow that well. So it kind of gives you an idea of what your escrow payment is each month and then what you'll pay in the first year. So on the next page, we have the loan calculations, and this just gives you an idea of all of the actual numbers and what they really mean long term with the loan you have if you pay it as expected. So on this $57,000 house, if you pay for 30 years, you'll be paying $95,022.83 for your home. Then it explains the finance charge, which is how much you'll pay in interest and how much this loan costs you, which is $40,066. You could basically buy another house in this area for that amount. But the amount financed total is the loan amount available after paying your upfront finance charge, and that's $48,259.67. And then the annual percentage rate, which is your cost over the loan term expressed as a rate, not your actual interest rate, that is 4.661%. And this last one is the total interest percentage, which is the total amount of interest you'll pay over the life of loan as a percentage, which is 51.795%. So 51% of what this person is paying is going to be interest. Okay, next I'm quickly going to go over what they used for grants and things like that to make the purchase easier for their family. So there was a $57,000 purchase price, and this family in Illinois used the IHDA. It was a forgivable loan, and then that IHDA was 4% of the home purchase price. So that amount was up to $6,000. That is a stipulation, but it was forgiven over 10 years of owning the home, and it helps you just pay for some of the closing costs. This family let me know that they contributed about $1,000, which include things like the appraisal fee and stuff like that. So they paid for that stuff, and then they got this IHDA forgivable loan included in their closing documents. And then they also had, as we saw in the documents, the FHLBC DPP grant, and that was 3-to-1 match up to $6,000. So they contributed $2,000, and then they get $6,000 in grant money, which we saw in the closing documents. And this $6,000 grant is forgiven over 5 years. So I am not an Illinois resident or real estate agent, so this is information I was provided by the person that bought this home. So if there's any errors, please forgive me. And they did say around $8,300 in grant money helped them purchase this home. So a thing I highly recommend if you're a new home buyer, look for local and state programs that can help you get in a home. There are a lot of them, and then read the fine print because sometimes there's income limits, there's time limits, there's things that you have to qualify for or do in order to get the money that is being provided. But remember that no matter what, there is always a way to buy a home that you love.
So that is it. Thank you so much for watching today. I am so thankful that this family sent in their paperwork. If you would like to send in the paperwork, the closing documents for your home purchase or refinance, please send them to me. I would love to include more people from more locations and more price points on this series. It has been very educational for people, and it is really something that is helping others. Of course, you'll be anonymous. I will share some basic details, but it is something that is really helpful for people that are in that first home purchase stage or looking to figure out what is a good deal in their situation. I am not a real estate agent. I'm not a mortgage professional. I am not any kind of real estate professional. So I am doing this just because I know that having more knowledge is helpful. So of course, always check with a professional first, but having knowledge of your own is a really good option when you walk into these situations. 100% blind trust in anybody can really get you in a bad situation if it's not the right person to trust. So having your own set of Information and knowledge and past experience, even if it's watching videos of other people's paperwork, is really helpful. I hope this was helpful for you in your educational process, and I will leave another video linked here that may help you as well. I love sharing about real estate, even though I'm not a professional and don't have any real qualifications other than sharing actual real numbers. So I hope this is helpful, and I would love to see you in another video. Bye guys.